but also incredible gains through cooperation, if cooperation is achieved. China should absolutely seek out India as a partner in building the multipolar world. India and China went through a similar history, of course. Looking back in 1800, both were major economies, not only major civilizations. And in the 150 years between 1800 and 1950, both India and China suffered very, very badly. Now, since mid-20th century, both are becoming, again, major global powers and are working to create a multipolar world. There's a huge shared interest of India and China in the success of that transformation from a Western-led world to a world-led world, to a true multipolar world. So India and China have a lot to cooperate on, and they do cooperate in the BRICS process, in other venues, but this border conflict, for example, that China instigated is a mistake. India and China should say that is the least of our concerns right now. We will have peace on our borders. We will not have these skirmishes. We will not have these tensions. And we have huge common interests in sustainable development, in multilateralism, in a multipolar world. So that's where I would hope the dialogue would go. Close India-China relations. I have argued that this war resulted in part from the idea that NATO would enlarge to Russia's border. And I thought that proposal was a terrible mistake when it first was made in 2008. And the US and Europe have continued to push that idea even after President Putin said that is a red line for us. We will not and cannot accept NATO on our Ukraine border, so you have to stop. And I think that Russia is correct about that. Prudence would say, don't keep pushing this issue. It will create a wider war. I think that point of view is widely understood outside of the Western world. India, China, Brazil, South Africa are all saying this war should end through negotiation. This war should respect Russia's security interests as well as Ukraine's security interests. This, to my mind, is absolutely the way to end this war. And I believe that if China, India, Brazil, South Africa, Indonesia, and other countries around the G20 table say clearly, peace. We need peace. We need a negotiated end. That message can be heard. It's the right message. It's fair. It is practical. It is implementable. It's safe for the world. So to my mind, this is a real opportunity of major countries to say to both sides, sit down and resolve this thing in a mutually satisfactory way. Stop escalating. It's not the popular position in the United States. Most people don't have the experience that I have of having been involved in these issues for 30 years firsthand. So I was an advisor to President Gorbachev. I was an advisor to President Yeltsin. I was an advisor to President Kuchma of Ukraine. I was an advisor to President Yushchenko of Ukraine. I've been involved in this all along. I want all sides of this to succeed. I don't want enemies of one side or another. I really don't like the idea of banishing Russia. My whole idea of, as an advisor more than 30 years ago, was help Russia to become a normal, cooperative partner in development. That was Gorbachev's idea, and I was quite inspired by that then, and I still think it's the right idea. So I say these things, then people push back, no, that's not true. But the fact of the matter is I've seen it with my own eyes. Others may read what they do in the US press, but I have the firsthand experience. Rich countries have three kinds of responsibilities. First, for historical emissions. The climate today is deranged and degraded because of the rich countries in the past. So that's a historical responsibility. Then there is an ongoing responsibility. The rich countries emit far more greenhouse gases per capita than the poor countries. This is a current issue, and the United States is still emitting 15 tons of carbon dioxide per person. And in India, it's below 2 tons per capita, if I remember the most recent data correctly. And so this is a huge, huge gap. And that's a general truth, that the rich countries still are the major emitters. But even within the rich, there's a difference of Europe and the United States. The US is really a heavy emitter. So that's a second responsibility. The third responsibility is financial, and that is that the current economic system favors the rich over the poor. The rich pay low interest costs when they borrow, the poor pay sky-high usury costs. And the rich have a responsibility to rectify the situation so that finance works for everybody. That's what the G20 central mission should be. So in this sense, if you ask, are the rich doing enough? Not by a very long distance. They're not.